Chapter 672. He had always envied others for being able to comprehend their own bloodline martial techniques. He did not expect a martial technique to appear in his mind as soon as his suppressing prison steel bloodline was promoted to 9th level king class. However, now was not the time to comprehend martial techniques. There was still a part of the blood essence in the 9-dragon bloodline that had not been refined. The 9th chakra of the suppressing prison steel bloodline had appeared. Lu Ming was not in a hurry to upgrade the suppressing prison steel bloodline. Instead, he gave the rest of the blood essence to the 9-dragon bloodline. It took him a day to refine everyone's blood essence. However, the 9-dragon bloodline was not promoted to 9th level king class. It still did not have enough blood essence. Phew. Lu Ming exhaled. He got up and walked out of the Temple of Paragon and out of the room. Lu Ming, you are too slow. It has been a day. I can feel a strong spiritual herb aura from the Rainbow Island. There must be a large amount of spiritual herbs on the Rainbow Island. If you don't go now, it will all be taken by others. As soon as Lu Ming walked out of the room, Dandan, who was lying on Xian Yinqing's shoulder, shouted, "A large amount of spiritual herbs?" Lu Ming's eyes lit up. There were many places where he could use spiritual herbs. He would not let go of them. There is no doubt about it. There must be a lot of spiritual herbs. Dandan jumped onto Lu Ming's shoulder, and its eyes lit up. Let's go now. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing flew into the air and flew towards the Rainbow Island. They soon arrived at the Rainbow Island. There were fewer people around the Rainbow Island now. Many martial artists left when they saw that they could not enter the island. However, there were still a few who stayed, hoping for a miracle. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing's arrival did not attract much attention. Now that they had returned to their original appearances and had taken off their masks, no one knew that they were the famous Azura and Wuxia. The island, which was more than 100 miles in diameter, was suspended in the air. It was shrouded in a bright light. "Brother, why aren't you going in?" Lu Ming pulled a young man aside and asked curiously, "Did you just come from outside? This place is protected by the inscription array. At the very least, one would need the battle prowess of a peak king to break through this light screen and enter." The young man casually glanced at Lu Ming and did not pay much attention to him. Lu Ming looked 5 or 6 years younger than him. He didn't think that Lu Ming could break in. Oh, so that means those peak king level martial artists and above have all entered? However, this Rainbow Island only had a diameter of about 100 miles. With so many experts entering, wouldn't they have already dug 3 feet into the ground? It's already been a day, why haven't they come out yet? Lu Ming was a little curious. This was also something that he was curious about. I don't know either. If you have the ability, go in and take a look yourself. The young man looked at Lu Ming with a mocking expression. However, Lu Ming nodded and said, "Yes, I can only go in and take a look." Then Lu Ming casually threw a punch, and the light screen was broken. Lu Ming took a step forward and walked in. Xian Yinqing stretched out her slender hand and pressed down. The light screen was also broken, and Xian Yinqing's figure disappeared. The young man was dumbfounded and stood there in a daze. Heaven and earth spun. Lu Ming discovered that he was in the air and was falling rapidly. He hurriedly circulated his true essence and hovered in the air. Xian Yinqing appeared not far away from him. Lu Ming stood in the air and looked into the distance in a daze. The world was vast, and there were mountains and dangerous peaks. Lu Ming looked over and could see at least a few hundred miles. There was no end to the world. It was more than 100 miles. It was simply boundless. Lu Ming, this Rainbow Island looks like it's only 100 miles from the outside, but there's another world inside. I reckon that it's a small plain with a very large area. Xian Yinqing said. Lu Ming nodded. This Rainbow Island was really strange. Moreover, the mountains here were also very strange. They were divided into different colors with distinct layers. Some of the mountain peaks were filled with fiery red plants. Some of the mountain peaks were filled with golden plants. Some of them were blue, and some of them were purple. There were a total of 7 colors. No wonder it was called the Rainbow Island. Moreover, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth here was extremely rich. There are spiritual herbs. I can smell the scent of spiritual herbs. Dandan lifted its 2 short legs and ran forward. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing followed. Dandan stopped on a mountain peak. The mountain peak was full of potholes, and there were still remnants of medicinal fragrance. Obviously, there were indeed spiritual herbs, but they had been dug up. They came to a few nearby mountains, and there were traces of excavation everywhere. The Rainbow Spiritual Master was a 7th-level true inscription alchemist back then. He was probably an expert in alchemy, so it was normal for him to grow many spiritual herbs. Look, I told you we were late. All the spiritual herbs have been dug up. Dandan said unhappily. Let's go. Stop muttering. This island is very big, and no one has left yet. It means that this island hasn't been completely excavated. If we rush over now, we'll be in a hurry. Lu Ming grabbed Dandan and placed it on his shoulder. He turned into a stream of light and rushed forward. Along the way, they didn't see anyone. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing didn't stop and flew all the way. Soon, the two of them flew for a distance of 100,000 kilometers. They didn't know how many mountains and rivers they had passed. In the end, the two of them saw people, but they were already corpses. It was obvious that there was a big battle over the spiritual herbs. Boom. Suddenly, the sound of a big battle came from ahead. Then, they saw a few streams of light flying towards a mountain range. Let's go. There's a 6th-level spiritual herb in the valley ahead. The three of us will work together and snatch the spiritual herb. We'll split it equally. The three figures disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the mountain range ahead, the rumbling sounds became more and more intense. A 6th-level spiritual herb. Kill it. Lu Ming charged. Dandan's eyes lit up when it heard that there was a 6th-level spiritual herb. It kept waving its little claws. Lu Ming's eyes also lit up. A 6th-level spiritual herb was rare. He flew forward with Xian Yanqing. In front of them, there was a huge canyon in the mountains. Inside, there were flashes of light constantly. There were also violent rumbling sounds and angry roars. The two of them rushed in without hesitation. There were more than 10 people fighting, and they were all peak tier kings. On a cliff in the canyon, there were 3 purple spiritual herbs. Purple grass, a 6th-level spiritual herb. After consuming it, it could purify one's true yuan and strengthen one's cultivation. More than 10 peak tier kings were fighting in a chaotic battle. Lu Ming stepped out and walked towards the purple grass. Kid, get out of my way. The purple grass is mine. A brawny man's eyes flickered with a ferocious light as he clawed at Lu Ming. You're the one getting out. Lu Ming threw a punch with the back of his hand. A burst of fist aura blasted out. The burly man's claws made cracking sounds and his bones broke. He screamed and his body flew out like a cannonball. He crashed heavily into the stone wall on one side of the canyon, directly smashing a huge deep hole in the wall. The brawny man was trapped in the deep hole. He was already breathing out more than he was breathing in. Chapter 673. They were well aware of the strength of that burly man. In the previous battle, that burly man was vaguely the strongest among them. However, Lu Ming had beaten him half to death with a casual punch. Lu Ming's battle strength was too terrifying. Shura, he's Shura. I've seen that kind of fist technique before. Suddenly, an old man exclaimed and looked at Lu Ming with fear. What? Shura, it's him? It should be him. With such battle strength at such a young age, it's very likely that he's Shura. He's just taken off his mask. The other peak kings exclaimed and looked at Lu Ming in shock. If he was really Shura, they knew that they could forget about getting this spiritual herb. Shura had killed a deep-sea serpent by himself in the previous battle with the sea beasts. His battle strength was terrifying to the extreme. It wouldn't take much effort for him to kill them. I'll take this Ziying grass. Lu Ming glanced at these people and said calmly. It's all right, it's all right. Since little brother has taken a fancy to it, you can have it. The old man said with a face full of smiles. Lu Ming's face was calm as he strode toward the Ziying grass. Whoosh. Just as Lu Ming was about to approach the Ziying grass, a blade light cut through the void and slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming frowned and quickly retreated, dodging the blade light. A burly man in his 30s walked over step by step in the air with his hands behind his back. His body emitted an aura that was as deep as the sea. Sea of Soul Realm. This was a Sea of Soul Realm martial artist. It's him? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming recognized this burly man. This burly man was one of the experts who had rushed over to help. The corpse of the deep-sea serpent that Lu Ming had killed was also taken away by this person. Do you think a mere martial king like you can get your hands on a grade 6 spiritual herb? You must be dreaming. The burly man stood in the air with his hands behind his back, looking down at Lu Ming and the others with a superior appearance. The faces of the dozen or so peak kings turned unsightly. Since Senior has taken a fancy to it, we naturally wouldn't dare to compete with Senior. We'll take our leave now. The old man cupped his fists respectfully before turning around to leave. Whoosh! The burly man waved his hand, and a blade light slashed towards the old man. The old man's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding the saber light. Of course, this was also because the burly man had held back. Otherwise, with the old man's cultivation, he definitely would not have been able to avoid it. Senior, what do you mean by this? The old man's expression was extremely ugly. Although he looked older than the burly man, in the world of martial arts, the strong were respected. Therefore, age was not the only thing that mattered. Besides, the other party was a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator. Who knew how old he was on the surface? What do you mean? Hand over your storage rings. Like I said, level 6 spiritual herbs are not something you can take. The muscular man's indifferent voice rang out. What? You want us to hand over our storage rings? The expressions of the more than 10 peak tier kings changed dramatically. They weren't fools. If they handed over their storage rings, how could they take them back? What? You're not going to hand it over? If you don't hand them over, then you can stay here forever. The burly man's expression darkened, and a wisp of killing intent flashed in his eyes. The expressions of the peak tier kings changed drastically, and they were incomparably ugly. The storage rings contained all their belongings. If they handed it over, how could they cultivate in the future? Involuntarily, a few of them looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's expressions were calm from the beginning to the end. The burly man shifted his gaze to Lu Ming, then to Xian Yanqing, and a trace of evil fire flashed in his eyes. Kid, you're very calm. Let's start with you. Hurry up and hand over your storage rings. The burly man shouted. Scram. Lu Ming only replied with one word. The burly man was stunned, and he stared blankly at Lu Ming. He suspected that he had misheard. Lu Ming actually told him to scram? A martial king actually told him to scram? He simply thought that he was hallucinating. Kid, what did you say? What did you just say? The burly man couldn't help but ask twice. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to scram. If you don't scram, you can stay here forever. Lu Ming said indifferently. Ha ha ha, kid, little bastard, you told me to scram? Are you crazy? The burly man laughed crazily, as if he had never encountered such a funny thing in his life. 3. Lu Ming coldly started counting. You're courting death, you know? But I'll make you beg for death. The burly man's body emitted an intense killing intent. 2. Lu Ming continued. The burly man's face turned completely gloomy. He realized that Lu Ming didn't seem to be joking at all, but was serious. But a 20-year-old kid, a peak martial king, how could he tell a Sea of Soul Realm expert to scram? Where did his confidence come from? The other peak tier kings were also dumbfounded. Even if they guessed that Lu Ming might be an Azura, seeing a peak tier king threaten a Sea of Soul Realm expert like this with their own eyes was simply like a dream. 1. Lu Ming counted to 1. With a flicker, Xian Yanqing's figure appeared behind the burly man, blocking his path of retreat with Lu Ming in front and behind. 2 little bastards, I'd like to see what kind of ability you have to be so arrogant in front of me. Today, I'll make you suffer a life and death dilemma. The burly man's face revealed a sinister expression, and his killing intent became even denser. Nonsense. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he suddenly punched out. This punch almost pierced through space, emitting a deafening rumble. The burly man's face suddenly changed. He realized that this punch could pose a threat to him. A battle blade appeared in his hand. Just as he was about to slash out and scatter Lu Ming's fist light, his body suddenly sank, as if a 10,000-meter tall mountain was pressing down on him. He almost fell to the ground. Behind him, Xian Yinqing lightly pressed down with one hand, displaying the sky demon force field. Damn it! The burly man discovered that his body was as heavy as a mountain. Not only had his movements slowed down, even the circulation of Zhen Yuan in his body had slowed down. It was as if every muscle in his body was pressing down on a mountain. Exploding star fist. Bang! Bang! In an instant, Lu Ming punched out hundreds of times. Hundreds of frightening fist lights bombarded the burly man. That aura was too frightening. Destruction cut. Xian Yinqing whispered, and the destructive power suddenly erupted. The burly man's body violently shook, and the destructive power almost cut him in two. However, Lu Ming's exploding star fist had already arrived. No, spare me. At this moment, the burly man was scared. He was really scared. With his cultivation in the middle stage of the first layer of the spiritual sea realm, under the joint attack of Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing, it was almost impossible for him to resist. He felt that death was approaching. However, before he could finish his words, he was drowned by hundreds of fist auras. Again, Lu Ming punched out hundreds of times, and then another hundreds of times, and hundreds of fist lights bombarded the burly man. Chapter 674. The other peak-tier kings stared at the area with their eyes wide open. Soon, the light completely dissipated. There was nothing there. No, to be precise, there was only a blood mist floating in the air and a storage ring. Hiss! The peak-tier kings sucked in cold breaths. Dead. An almighty at the middle stage of the first level of the spiritual sea realm died just like that. Under the joint efforts of Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing, not even his corpse was left behind. They already knew that the Azura and Yuxia were both very strong. However, after seeing this scene, the dozen or so peak kings were still shocked to the extreme. Too strong. Peak-tier kings were actually this strong? The two joined hands and complemented each other. It was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Lu Ming reached out and sucked the storage ring into his hand. However, he was still somewhat depressed. The attack just now was too fierce. The blood essence of the man was directly annihilated, not leaving anything behind. Lu Ming lamented in his heart. This was the blood essence of a Sea of Soul Realm expert. After Lu Ming refined it, his 9 dragons bloodline would probably rise to the 9th grade of King Realm. Lu Ming inwardly warned himself to not attack so fiercely in the future. You can leave. Immediately, Lu Ming glanced at the peak-tier kings. All right. Many thanks, young master. Many thanks, young lady. The dozen or so peak kings hurriedly nodded and bowed to express their gratitude before leaving. If not for Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing, their belongings would definitely be gone. After the peak-tier kings left, Lu Ming dug out the 3 stalks of ziying grass. Little Qing, how about we divide the things we get from this 7-colored island? Lu Ming waved the storage ring of the man and said, I'm fine with anything. Xian Yinqing said, Anything? How come you're so easy to talk to now? You were very clear with me before. Could it be? Lu Ming pretended to be surprised. He stroked his chin and carefully looked at Xian Yinqing. What are you looking at? Pervert, what are you thinking? Xian Yinqing blushed and glared fiercely at Lu Ming. I get it. We're a family, there's no need to be so calculative. Lu Ming chuckled. Who is your family? Dream on. No, that guy's storage ring belongs to me. Xian Yinqing's eyes widened, and he sucked in his true essence, sucking the storage ring from Lu Ming's hand. No way, I also contributed, I have a share too. Lu Ming wailed. Who asked you to offend me? Serves him right. Xian Yinqing glared fiercely at Lu Ming again. Then he turned around with a smile in his eyes. Lu Ming was speechless. This was the storage ring of a Sea of Soul Realm expert. It was gone just like that? Lu Ming's heart ached so much that he wanted to die. He hurriedly put away the 3 stalks of ziying grass. Otherwise, they would fall into Xian Yinqing's evil hands again. Hey, you guys split up. What about me? Don't forget about me. Dandan shouted. Go away. Lu Ming glanced at Dandan unhappily. Kid, what's with your attitude? I'm not done with you. Give me the spiritual herbs. If you don't give it to me, I'll bite you. As Dandan bared its fangs, the 2 men and 1 turtle left the canyon and continued to advance towards the depths of the Rainbow Island. From here on, they could occasionally meet other martial artists, and the spiritual herbs slowly increased. The Rainbow Taoist was using the Rainbow Island as a medicinal field. There were spiritual herbs everywhere. The Rainbow Taoist had fallen for 800 years, and the Rainbow Island had also disappeared for 800 years. Naturally, there were a lot of spiritual herbs here. Spiritual herbs could be seen on every mountain peak. Most of them were 4th grade, 5th grade, and even 6th grade ones could be seen occasionally. 6th grade spiritual herbs were very useful even for Sea of Soul realm experts. How precious were they? Naturally, it would lead to many fights and battles. However, with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's cultivation base, they were naturally unstoppable. No one was their match. Along the way, there were also some blind people who wanted to rob them. In the end, their essence blood fell into the 9 dragons' bloodline's mouth. After a day, the 2 had a bountiful harvest. They each obtained more than 300 stalks of 5th grade spiritual herbs, and a dozen or so 6th grade spiritual herbs. Even Dandin had a bountiful harvest, putting them all into its mouth. Run. Suddenly, a few peak-tier kings flew out from a mountain peak in fright. Swish. Swish. Next, Lu Ming saw that mountain peak shine. Beams of sword chi shot out, killing the peak-tier kings in the air. Great inscription array. Lu Ming's gaze focused. On that mountain peak, Lu Ming saw the great inscription array operating. Kid, I can sense that there are great inscription arrays everywhere ahead. It's quite dangerous. Dandin looked ahead and said in a low voice. Lu Ming gazed ahead. The spirit fire in his sea of consciousness was throbbing. He also had the same feeling. He felt that there were great inscription arrays and killing intent everywhere ahead. I reckon we're almost at the core. Otherwise, how could there be such a great inscription array? Xian Yanqing said. Lu Ming nodded and said, let's go down. We'll be more careful. Next, the 2 slowed down a lot. They focused their minds and carefully sensed. Lu Ming's spirit fire was throbbing. His perception of great inscription arrays was very accurate. He wouldn't rashly step into places with great inscription arrays. Buzz. In a valley, a raging fire suddenly burned. A few martial artists screamed and turned into ashes. The 2 walked for thousands of miles and saw 5 groups of people die under the great inscription arrays. Dangers were accompanied by opportunities. Here, there were more spiritual herbs than other places, especially the 6th grade spiritual herbs. The proportion was very high. Suddenly, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stopped and looked ahead. In front of them, a large mountain range had collapsed. The ground was full of potholes and pits. Obviously, there had been a great battle here. The area within 100 miles was a mess. To be able to leave such traces, their battle strength must be terrifying. Was it caused by the dragon and several experts in the 3rd layer of the spiritual sea realm? Lu Ming thought. The 2 patrolled the sky above this land. There's a corpse over there. No, it's half a corpse. Xian Yanqing looked down. The 2 of them landed on the ground, and indeed, they saw half a corpse. Only the lower half was left, and the upper half was missing. It's that old monster Lu Xian. Lu Ming's eyes focused. It seems that this is really the battlefield of the dragon and several old monsters. Xian Yanqing said in a low voice. Old monster Lu Xian, Han Dao, and old monster Hong Qi chased the dragon together. They must have chased in and fought. However, it seemed that old monster Lu Xian had died in the battle. Only half a corpse was left. They may have gone ahead. The dragon led the army of sea beasts to attack the Golden Sand Island. It's probably for the colorful island. What does the dragon want? Why did it rush here without caring about its own safety? Lu Ming frowned and guessed. Lu Ming, look, there seems to be a palace in front of us. Xian Yanqing suddenly pointed ahead. Chapter 675. Could that be the place where 7-colored spiritual master cultivates in seclusion? Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. 7-colored spiritual master was a strong practitioner of the spirit embryo realm, and a 7th-level true inscription master. How terrifying was he? How many treasures would there be in his seclusion? Lu Ming's heart palpitated with eagerness. Let's go, kid, let's go. I can already feel the calling of the treasure. Let's go. Dandan cried out. Its eyes were wide open and sparkling with luster. Let's go. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing didn't stop and continued forward. After a few hundred miles, their speed gradually slowed down. Although the palace was clearer from there were more and more inscription formations here, and they were more and more concentrated. If one wasn't careful, they would step into the inscription formations. Along the way, they saw quite a number of corpses. As they continued forward, it became even more dangerous. There were formations everywhere. Don't worry. With me here, what's an inscription formation carved by a mere 7th level inscription master? Just you wait. Dandan jumped down from Lu Ming's shoulder and sprinted in the air with its 2 short legs. It looked left and right, sometimes deep in thought, sometimes looking at the landscape. After a while, Dandan flew back to Lu Ming's shoulder and said, "First fly 3 miles to the right and land on that mound. Then fly 5 miles forward and continue." Dandan began to give directions. "Hey Dandan, is this reliable? This is a matter of life and death." Lu Ming looked at Dandan worriedly. "Nonsense, who am I? I am the head of the top 10 war beasts and have seen thousands of formations. What's this kind of formation? If I wasn't injured, this kind of childish plaything would be broken with a wave of my hand," Dandan said arrogantly. Lu Ming was speechless. He didn't really trust Dandan. This guy always dropped the ball at crucial moments. However, he was only a 3rd-level inscription master, and the inscriptions he had mastered were only 3rd-level inscriptions. His understanding of the inscription array was not enough. This was an array set up by a 7th-level inscription master, and he really could not see through it. We can only trust this guy now. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and followed Dandan's instructions with Xian Yanqing. They first flew 3 miles to the right, and then 5 miles forward. Wang. More than 10 minutes later, inscriptions suddenly flashed on an ordinary-looking small mountain. A few resplendent sword lights condensed and slashed towards Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Nest, I misjudged. Run. Dandan yelled and ran away madly. She was faster than anyone else. Fuck. Lu Ming was cursing in his heart. He swept out his long spear and retreated quickly. Xian Yanqing also displayed the Sky Demon Force Field to block the sword lights. Puff. Xian Yanqing's Sky Demon Force Field was almost split in half in an instant. Be careful. Lu Ming shouted. The spear light surged and swept towards the 3 sword lights. At the same time, he pulled Xian Yanqing's little hand and retreated crazily. Bang. Bang. After a few roars, the spear light exploded. Lu Ming was blasted back several miles by a huge force before he could stand firm. Lu Ming felt the blood in his body surging. He almost vomited blood. His eyes were burning with anger. He looked at Dandan and gritted his teeth. Is this the level of your top 10 beasts? Do you want to kill us? Cough cough. Lu Ming, calm down. Don't get too excited. I made a mistake and misjudged you. It won't happen again. I won't. Dandan also felt a little embarrassed and coughed a few times. Lu Ming was really speechless. This guy was really unreliable. But now, he could only rely on him. Lu Ming secretly swore in his heart that he must raise his inscription level as soon as possible. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous to rely on this guy. Dandan ran to the front again and observed carefully. After a while, he ran back and said confidently, "Don't worry, there will be no mistakes this time. Go ahead boldly." "I don't believe you," Lu Ming muttered in his heart. This time, he and Xian Yanqing were even more cautious. Boom. A small lake suddenly exploded, and the blade light violently slashed out. Nest. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing turned around and ran. This time, they were much more careful. As soon as something was wrong, they turned around and ran. "You old turtle, you're deliberately tricking me." Lu Ming was furious. Cough cough. Young man, calm down. It's not good to be angry at such a young age. Look at that girl. How calm is she? Dandan said awkwardly. Lu Ming, I want to roast this little turtle. Xian Yanqing said coldly. Dandan's body trembled and ran forward. Let me observe again. This time there won't be any mistakes. Just like that, they stumbled forward. The further they went, the closer they were to the palace. However, the number of inscription formations also increased. A few hundred miles ahead of Lu Ming and the others, there were two figures. One of them was the patriarch of the Cloud Sea Pill Institution, Yin Luo. The other was a middle-aged man who only had the cultivation of a peak-tier king. At this moment, the middle-aged man's face was pale. "Senior, it's too dangerous ahead. If you let me scout ahead, I'll only die." "Oh, if you don't scout ahead, you'll die now. Choose for yourself," Yin Luo said coldly. The middle-aged man's face became even paler. He originally had 3 companions, but they were captured by Yin Luo to scout ahead for him. His other 3 companions had died, because they were scouting ahead. Now it was his turn. "Why aren't you going forward? If you scout ahead, there's still a chance of survival. We'll reach the palace soon. Perhaps after passing through this section, there won't be any more danger. You might still live. If you don't move, I'll kill you now." Yin Luo's voice was cold. The middle-aged man's expression changed. In the end, he gritted his teeth and carefully flew forward. The formation here was very strange. Only by moving through the gaps could one be unharmed. Otherwise, even flying through the air might trigger the formation. Moreover, there was even a formation in the air. The methods of a 7th-grade true inscription refinement master were already unfathomable. The middle-aged man focused his mind and made several turns here and there. After traveling for more than 10 miles, he did not encounter any problems. Just as he let out a sigh of relief, inscriptions flashed in the air. A battle sword formed and split the middle-aged man in half. "Damn it, useless trash," Yin Luo roared. Now that the last person to scout ahead for him was dead, how was he going to enter? Even if his cultivation was strong and he could directly charge through some of the formations, there were still some that could kill him. He didn't dare to take the risk. Just as he was hesitating, a few figures appeared behind him and headed in his direction. Yin Luo turned around. When he saw who it was, his eyes were filled with cold killing intent. It was Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. When Yin Luo saw Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing naturally saw Yin Luo as well. "Yin Luo, it's you?" Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. It was a little beyond his expectations. He didn't see Yin Luo when he was fighting the sea beasts, but now he saw Yin Luo here. Chapter 676. "Ha ha ha, you 2 little bastards, you came at the right time. Be obedient and lead the way for me." Yin Luo laughed loudly, his face ferocious. It was because of Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing that he was besieged by the 4 young experts and lost an arm. Originally, he was about to break through to the 2nd layer of the spiritual sea realm, but because of losing an arm, his vitality was greatly damaged. Not only was his cultivation hard to break through, but it was also declining. Now his cultivation could barely maintain at the peak of the 1st layer of the spiritual sea realm. After losing an arm, his battle power had decreased a little. His hatred for Lu Ming and the others could not be washed away even by the Yellow River. "Lead the way for you." "Yin Luo, you are dreaming. Why don't you lead the way yourself?" Lu Ming glanced at the middle-aged man's body and sneered. Compared to the battle with Yin Luo, his and Xian Yanqing's battle power had greatly increased. Now, how could they be afraid of Yin Luo? But Yin Luo did not know that he was defeated because he was besieged by the 4 young experts. Now there was only Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. He was confident that he could suppress Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. "You don't want to lead the way? If you don't, I will kill you right now," Yin Luo said coldly. "This is what I want to say to you. Last time you ran away. This time stay." Lu Ming's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he strode forward. Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming walked side by side toward Yin Luo. "You are looking for death." Yin Luo roared and waved his arm. 2 flame rings appeared, suppressing Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Boom! Lu Ming's long spear expanded, surrounded by the 3-colored conception. He threw out a spear, colliding with the 2 flame rings. With a boom, the 2 rings were blown back by Lu Ming. Yin Luo's expression changed greatly as he exclaimed, "How can you be so strong?" "Sky Demon Force Field, Destruction Slice Kill," Xian Yanqing shouted. She pushed her jade-like hand forward, and a powerful heavenly demon force field enveloped Yin Luo. destructive and cutting power crazily erupted. Not good. Yin Luo's expression changed again. She kept waving her hand and unleashing her full power. Rings of fire appeared one after another, blocking the cutting power coming from all directions. Explosions rang out incessantly as sparks flew in all directions. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming's long spear shook, and immediately dozens of spear lights shot towards Yin Luo. Under Xian Yanqing's intentional control, the heavenly demon force field had no effect on Lu Ming's attack. Bang! Bang! Under the joint attack of Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming, Yin Luo was completely at a disadvantage. How is that possible? How could this be? How could these two little bastards become so strong? Damn it! Yin Luo was horrified and tried his best to resist. However, his combat strength was not as good as before. He was no match for Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing at all. He was completely suppressed. After a while, 2 more wounds appeared on his body. They were caused by the destruction slice. If he hadn't dodged in time, he would have been cut in half. Go, I will die if this continues. Yin Luo frantically retreated, but he was shrouded by the heavenly demon force field. And his speed was much slower. No matter how much he retreated, Xian Yanqing would immediately move forward and surround him. Whoosh! His neck was slashed by the spear light, and a bloody wound appeared. It almost pierced through his throat. Ah! He screamed. He was really afraid that he would die here. More and more wounds appeared on his body. Spare me, please spare me. I can give you 10 million supreme-grade spirit crystals. How about that? Yin Luo shouted. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's attacks became even more violent. 20 million. I will give you 20 million. Please spare me. Yin Luo shouted. Bang! Bang! What responded to him was Lu Ming's footwork. Lu Ming took large strides forward, getting closer and closer to Yin Luo. His attacks became more and more violent. As long as we kill you, your wealth will be ours. Why do we need you to give it to us? Lu Ming's voice was laced with sarcasm. Whoosh! As soon as his voice fell, Lu Ming turned into a spear light and shot out. Extreme Dao Strike. Puchi! The spear light pierced through Yin Luo's heart. Yin Luo roared, his voice full of unwillingness. If he knew that he would end up like this, he wouldn't have come to the Rainbow Island this time. The result of coming here was death. Bang! Lu Ming's long spear shook. Yin Luo was dead. He reached out and devoured Yin Luo's blood essence. As soon as Yin Luo's blood essence entered the 9 dragons' bloodline, there was a violent roar. The energy was too terrifying, and Lu Ming had to refine it immediately. Shaoqing, I will cultivate for a while. Guard me. Having said that, Lu Ming sat down with his legs crossed and focused on refining the blood essence. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming curiously. She didn't understand why Lu Ming wanted to cultivate all of a sudden. It took him half a day to refine all of Yin Luo's blood essence. Roar! The 9 dragons' bloodline emerged and roared. Above the 8 dazzling chakras, a chakra suddenly emerged. The 9th silver chakra, a 9th grade king-class bloodline. Xian Yanqing's eyes widened and her mouth was slightly agape, revealing a look of disbelief. Bloodline upgrade. This guy can upgrade his bloodline. No wonder this guy is so abnormal. Every time I improve my strength, I can't surpass him. Xian Yanqing's beautiful eyes flickered. The light of the 9th chakra was dimmer than the other 8 chakras. This was because it had not reached its peak. After a while, the 9 dragons' bloodline disappeared into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a beautiful face in front of him. She was staring at him without blinking. She was only a few inches away from his face. Lu Ming could even feel Xian Yanqing's breathing. Lu Ming was shocked and said, "What are you doing? Are you trying to take advantage of me while I'm cultivating?" "Take advantage of you? You wish." Xian Yanqing curled her lips, and then looked at Lu Ming curiously. She said, "Your bloodline can upgrade. How wonderful." Lu Ming looked calm and was not surprised. When he was cultivating, he didn't intend to avoid Xian Yanqing. In fact, even if he did, Xian Yanqing would have guessed something. After all, he and Xian Yanqing had known each other for a few years. Xian Yanqing was very clear about the grade of his bloodline. Now that his bloodline had upgraded, Xian Yinqing must have been wondering about it. My first bloodline has an ability to devour the blood essence of humans and beasts to upgrade its grade, Lu Ming said without hiding anything. However, he didn't mention the name of his first bloodline. It was not that he didn't trust Xian Yinqing. On the contrary, he trusted Xian Yinqing very much. However, this matter was too serious. If something were to happen, not only him, but Xian Yinqing would be in danger too. It has such a wonderful ability. How wonderful! Xian Yinqing's eyes flickered as she exclaimed. I've only told you about it. I hope you won't tell anyone else. Otherwise, I'll be captured and used for research, Lu Ming said. You've only told me? Chapter 677. Of course, I didn't even tell my parents. Lu Ming said. Hee hee, I'm the only one you told. Xian Yinqing's face revealed a bright smile. Her eyes were full of smiles as she said. Then you'll have to listen to me obediently in the future. Otherwise, hee hee. Xian Yinqing revealed a pair of beautiful canine teeth as he chuckled, looking very pleased with himself. Listen to you? Sure. Lu Ming walked towards Xian Yinqing with a smile. Really? Xian Yinqing's eyes lit up. Whoosh. Lu Ming suddenly hugged Xian Yinqing by the waist and slapped Xian Yinqing's perky buttocks. He laughed and said, Fake. How dare you threaten me? I'll spank you. Xian Yinqing was stunned for a moment. Then her little face turned red. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws, shouting, Lu Ming, how dare you hit me. I'm not done with you. Tisk, it's not the first time. It feels better than before. It's more flexible than before. Lu Ming muttered. Xian Yinqing screamed. Her true essence burst forth and escaped from Lu Ming's evil clutches. Her silver teeth creaked as she glared at Lu Ming. However, her face was red. Even the tips of her ears were red. It added a little girl's shyness and made her even more beautiful. Little Qing, you're so beautiful, Lu Ming said subconsciously. Xian Yinqing blinked her big eyes and her face turned even redder. Suddenly, her face revealed a bright smile and said, Humph, you have good taste. I'll let you go this time. That works? Isn't that a little too fast? Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Nest, I can't stand it anymore. How dare you talk about love in front of me? Damn it. I must marry 3,000 concubines. I'll anger you to death. Dandan mumbled to himself as he ran to the front to observe the formation. Lu Ming was a little amused. Then he looked at Xian Yinqing and said, Little Qing, what about you? Are you hiding a lot of secrets from me? What secrets do I have? Xian Yinqing blinked. No. For example, I've met your elder sister before. Lu Ming asked. At the mention of this, Xian Yinqing's face immediately darkened, and he didn't say anything. After a while, Xian Yinqing said, It's not that I want to hide it from you, but now is not the time to tell you. Now is not the time to talk about it. Why? Lu Ming was puzzled. It's very simple. It's because your cultivation is too weak. When you're strong enough, I'll naturally tell you. After Xian Yinqing finished speaking, he stopped talking. Strength? It seems that little Qing's background is really not that simple. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Since Xian Yinqing didn't want to talk about it now, Lu Ming didn't continue to ask. Dandan carefully checked the inscriptions. After a while, he continued to guide Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. The two continued to move forward. A few hours later, they finally passed through the layers of inscription formations and came to a mountain peak. On the mountain peak stood a palace. There should be no inscription formations in front of us. We can go straight to the peak, Dandan said. Although Dandan said so, Lu Ming still didn't dare to be careless. He carefully went to the peak. At the peak of the mountain, there stood a huge palace, which was golden and magnificent. In front of the palace, there was a huge square. The square was completely paved with white jade, which was extremely luxurious. As soon as Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing arrived at the peak, they stopped and looked very dignified. Frostblade Spirit, Old Monster Hongqi, and the Flood Dragon. Lu Ming stared at the white jade square with a surprised look. Frostblade Spirit, Old Monster Hongqi, and the Flood Dragon were all in the square. However, both sides seemed to be in trouble. On the white jade square, inscriptions were densely packed and black. They were like small black snakes swimming around, forming an inscription formation. Both Frostblade Spirit and Old Monster Hongqi were covered with inscriptions. The black inscriptions were constantly drilling into their bodies. The two of them stood in the square and were trying their best to resist. However, they couldn't move their bodies. On the other side of the square, the flood dragon was facing the same situation. It was now in its human form, standing in the square. There were also countless inscriptions drilling into its body from all directions. What a wonderful inscription formation. The inscriptions seemed to be alive. Lu Ming stared at the inscriptions on the white jade square with amazement in his eyes. On the square, Frostblade Spirit and the others also saw Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. Surprise flashed through the eyes of Coldblade Spirit Warrior and Red Old Monster. They did not expect that there would be other people who had made it here. Moreover, it was such a young man and woman. Judging from their cultivation, they were only Peking warriors. In the next moment, ecstasy flashed in Frostblade Spirit's eyes. In the depths of his ecstasy, there was a trace of coldness as he yelled. You two, you came at the right time. Right now, the flood dragon is trapped by the inscription formation and can't move. Go and kill it now. No, little brother, you go alone. Leave that girl alive. Lu Ming sneered and said, Senior, that flood dragon is too strong. I'm afraid I can't kill it. Why can't you kill it? It's trapped and can't move. If it moves, it will be killed by the inscription formation. Why can't you kill it by attacking its vitals? Frostblade Spirit yelled. How about this? If the two of us attack the flood dragon together, we will have a better chance. Lu Ming pointed at Xian Yinqing and said, No, that girl has other things to do. Hurry up and do it. Don't miss this opportunity. Frostblade Spirit yelled. No, Senior. I still don't think I can do it alone. Lu Ming said. Nonsense. Kid, you should know who I am. I'm Frostblade Spirit. Now, I order you to kill that flood dragon immediately. Now. Frostblade Spirit's face darkened as he said in a commanding tone. Lu Ming sneered. This old guy finally couldn't hold back and showed his true colors. Lu Ming sneered and said, Although I'm not talented, I still have some understanding of the inscription formation. This formation is very mysterious. If I attack the flood dragon, even if I can kill it, I will be trapped in the formation. With my cultivation, only death will await me if I fall into the formation. You want me to do it alone and leave my friend here, so that she can help you break the formation around the square. Frostblade Spirit's face became gloomier. He didn't expect that Lu Ming could see through his thoughts at such a young age. Yes, that was his plan. Little guy, you're quite smart. But do you have any other choice now? If you don't do as I say, both of you will die when I come out. I advise you to do as I say. That girl can still live, and you can die a quick death. Frostblade Spirit sneered and showed his ferocious face. Really? We don't have any other choice? How come? We can take a detour from the side, enter the main hall, obtain the treasures inside, and then swagger out. Isn't this a better choice? Lu Ming said with a smile. Junior, how dare you? If you dare, I swear I'll make you wish you were dead. Chapter 678. Lu Ming sneered. This Han Dao spirit warrior was really shameless. When he was fighting with the flood dragon, he didn't care about the lives of others. He let others block the flood dragon for him while he ran away. In fact, with the strength of the Ice Blade spirit warrior, if he risked his life, it would not be a problem for him to hold off the flood dragon for a while, until Old Monster Hongqi and the others arrived. However, he would not do that. He would rather let others sacrifice their lives, so that he could protect himself as much as possible. Now he wanted to do the same thing again. He wanted Lu Ming to kill the flood dragon with his life. After killing the flood dragon, he would ask Xian Yinqing to attack the formation base. Did he think others were fools? If they didn't agree, he would threaten them. Was the third tier of the spiritual sea realm that great? Old man, I have a shortcoming. I hate it when people threaten me. The more they threaten me, the more I will go against them. As I said before, I happen to know some inscriptions. This formation has been engraved for a long time, so its power has decreased greatly. The energy of the spirit crystals in some places has been used up. It seems that I need to replenish some spirit crystals. Lu Ming said lightly. Little bastard, how dare you? The Han Dao spirit warrior's face was cold. Why wouldn't I dare? You are nothing in my eyes. Lu Ming curled his lips and flew to the edge of the square. There were some potholes on the edge of the square. That was the formation base. There were many supreme-grade spirit crystals inlaid on it. But some of the spirit crystals were broken and had lost their spirituality. There was no energy left. Lu Ming pointed at a pothole and moved his finger. The useless spirit crystals in the pothole flew out. A perfect supreme-grade spirit crystal appeared in Lu Ming's hand. He waved his hand, and the supreme-grade spirit crystal was inlaid into the pothole. The inscriptions around the pothole brightened a little. Stop it! Stop it! The Han Dao spirit warrior roared. Stop? Sure, kneel down and beg me. Lu Ming turned his head and smiled at the frost saber spirit cultivator. Kneel down and beg you? Little bastard! Who do you think you are? How dare you ask me to kneel down and beg you? The Han Dao spirit warrior was stunned for a moment, and then roared. Forget it if you don't want to kneel. Lu Ming's fingers kept moving. He took out the useless supreme spiritual crystals one by one, and put in the intact supreme spiritual crystals. He was very fast. Soon, Lu Ming had put in hundreds of supreme spiritual crystals. The inscriptions on the formation grew brighter and brighter, and its power grew stronger and stronger. Little bastard, if I don't kill you, I swear I'm not human. The Frostblade Spirit Master's killing intent was bone-chilling. He hated Lu Ming to the bone. Roar! At this moment, the Flood Dragon let out an earth-shattering roar and stepped toward the edge of the square. As soon as it moved, the inscription formation began to operate crazily. Countless inscriptions seemed to have come to life and turned into swords and sabers that slashed at the Flood Dragon. The Flood Dragon roared and a halberd appeared in his hand. He swung it around to block the attacks from all directions. Clearly, the Flood Dragon was very decisive. It knew that if it continued, the situation would become more and more disadvantageous for it. It wanted to charge out of the array with its life on the line. Boom! Boom! The sabers and swords formed by the inscription formation were extremely powerful, and there seemed to be no end to them. They kept slashing at the Flood Dragon. Puff! Even though the Flood Dragon's defense was amazing, it was still cut open by the sharp swords and blood flowed out. However, the Flood Dragon ignored it and rushed out crazily. Every time it took a step, the white jade ground would rumble. Countless inscriptions covered the Flood Dragon, and eventually turned into flames, wrapping the Flood Dragon in them. Roar! With a shocking roar, the Flood Dragon turned into its original form, which was only a dozen meters long. Its body shot out rays of blue divine light, and the halberd slashed horizontally. Even so, every time the Flood Dragon stepped a meter forward, there would be an additional wound on its body. At the same time, it had to face the burning flames. No wonder it's a Flood Dragon. What a strong physical body! Lu Ming exclaimed. In the face of such an attack, a human martial artist might not be able to withstand it. However, the Flood Dragon withstood it and kept rushing out. It was getting closer and closer to the outside of the formation. Damn it! Cold Saber Spirit Master and Old Monster Hongqi were anxious. If the Flood Dragon went out first, the treasures in the hall would fall into its hands. Xiao Qing, let's go into the hall first. Lu Ming's face also changed. If the Flood Dragon came out, they would not be its match. The two of them rushed along the side of the square, and were about to rush to the hall. Stop! The Flood Dragon roared and its two dragon horns emitted a bright light. Two rays of blue divine light, like two extremely sharp swords, shot through the inscription formation and shot toward Lu Ming and Old Monster Hongqi. Lu Ming blocked it with the infinite dragon spear. The huge force made Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing retreat rapidly. Buzz! The infinite dragon spear kept vibrating in his hand. Fortunately, it was a level 6 upper spiritual weapon. If it were a level 5 spiritual weapon, it would have been shattered. The Flood Dragon roared and rushed out crazily without caring about its injuries. Its speed was greatly increased. In just a few breaths, the Flood Dragon rushed out of the inscription formation, but in exchange, it was covered with wounds. There were at least dozens of wounds on the flood dragon's body. Its dragon scales were torn, and its flesh was badly mutilated. Some of the wounds exposed its snow-white bones. Even the bones were cut open. However, the flood dragon's body was too strong and its vitality was terrifying. With such serious injuries, its breath was a little weak, but it did not fall down. It glanced at Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing, but did not attack. Instead, it rushed into the hall. This flood dragon is in such a hurry to rush to the hall. There must be great treasures inside. Let's go in and have a look, Lu Ming said to Xian Yinqing. Xian Yinqing also nodded. Although the flood dragon was powerful, it was too injured to maintain its peak combat strength. If the flood dragon attacked them, the two of them were confident to escape together. That was why they dared to follow it. The two of them followed the flood dragon and rushed into the hall. Damn it, little bastard. The Frostblade spiritual master roared. They did not dare to rush in like the flood dragon. They did not have a strong body like the flood dragon. Whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming, Xian Yinqing and the flood dragon rushed into the hall one after another. The hall was very spacious. As soon as they rushed in, Lu Ming felt a huge pressure. Even his 9 dragons bloodline was agitated. Lu Ming's spine was filled with red light. Lu Ming looked at the center of the hall in shock. There was a mass of blood floating there. On the surface of the blood, there were small true dragons swimming constantly. A huge pressure spread out. This pressure was like the pressure of the ancestor of all beasts and the king of all kings. It was terrifying and could subdue everything. A true dragon, the blood of a true dragon. Before Lu Ming spoke, Dandan on his shoulder shouted first. The blood of a true dragon. Yes, this mass of blood was the blood of a true dragon. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were shocked. They never expected that there would be a mass of blood of a true dragon in the Rainbow Spiritual Master's palace. Moreover, this mass of blood seemed to have just flowed out of a true dragon and had spirituality. Chapter 679. What was a true dragon? It was a supreme divine beast. It had been extinct in the eastern wilderness for many years. Lu Ming had once obtained a true dragon's phalanx. However, the phalanx's spirituality had almost completely dissipated after so many years. There was not much essence left. However, this true dragon's blood had completely preserved its spirituality and essence. Its value was incomparable. It was no wonder that the flood dragon was willing to risk its life to rush into the palace. The temptation of a real dragon's blood was too strong for a flood dragon. If a flood dragon swallowed the blood, it would undergo a shocking transformation. Its future potential was limitless. Edited by Lifer. Fingerfox. It seemed that the flood dragon was after this true dragon's blood when the sea beasts attacked the island. He wondered how the flood dragon knew that there was true dragon's blood on the Rainbow Island. I want to eat it. I want to eat this true dragon's blood. Dandan's eyes widened as it screamed. It ran toward the true dragon's blood with its 2 legs. At this moment, Lu Ming's 9 dragons bloodline also appeared. He let out a loud roar. Feeling an incomparable desire. Roar. The flood dragon roared and its body grew rapidly. It whipped its tail on Dandan's body and sent Dandan flying. Ah! You little worm. How dare you whip me? I'm not done with you. Dandan screamed and slammed into the wall of the main hall, creating a dent in the wall and embedding herself in it. Little worm, you're dead. You're dead. Ouch. My old waist. Dandan's cursing voice could be heard. Lu Ming was relieved. He knew that the flood dragon's defense was amazing. He would not be hurt so easily. Roar. After sending Dandan flying, the flood dragon pounced on the true dragon's blood. Stop it. Lu Ming strode forward, his long spear expanding and attacking the flood dragon. Heavenly Demon Force Field. Xian Yinqing pressed her hand, and the Heavenly Demon Force Field exploded, enveloping the flood dragon. Scram! A loud roar came from the flood dragon's mouth as a gigantic halberd flew out and collided with Lu Ming's gigantic spear chi, destroying Lu Ming's spear chi in one fell swoop. Immediately after, the flood dragon's gigantic body shook violently. Xian Yinqing's complexion changed, and he was forced to retreat. The flood dragon was really too strong. Although its level was only at the early stage of the second layer of the spiritual sea realm, It could suppress the peak of the third layer of the spiritual sea realm, Frostblade Spirit Practitioner, and battle with 3 powerful third-layer spiritual sea realm experts. Even that old monster Lu Xian might have been killed by the Flood Dragon. Although the Flood Dragon was heavily injured and its battle prowess was greatly reduced, its strength was definitely not weaker than the peak of the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. It was not something that Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing could rival. After pushing back Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing, the Flood Dragon flew forward, opened its mouth wide, and swallowed the dragon blood in one gulp. Roar! After swallowing the dragon blood, the Flood Dragon let out an excited roar that shook the sky. A layer of bloody light spread out from the Flood Dragon's body, and the injuries on its body began to heal at a visible speed. The dragon blood's effect was indeed amazing, especially for the Flood Dragon. It took effect so quickly. Not only that, but the Flood Dragon's aura was also rising rapidly. Go, let's get out of here quickly. Lu Ming's expression was solemn. Since they could not get the true dragon blood, they had to leave quickly. If they waited until the Flood Dragon's injuries were healed, it would be too late for them to leave. Bang! Dandan flew out from the wall and landed on Lu Ming's shoulder, still cursing. Who is it? Who are you? Get out, get out! At this moment, the Flood Dragon suddenly roared crazily. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were a little stunned. Was this directed at them? But it didn't look like it. Lu Ming, look, the Flood Dragon's eyes are not right, Xian Yinqing said. Lu Ming looked at the Flood Dragon's eyes and saw that in addition to excitement and ecstasy, there was also fear and horror in the Flood Dragon's eyes. Get out, get out, get out of my body! The Flood Dragon roared and its huge body rolled in the hall. Ha ha ha, I've waited for 800 years and finally a Flood Dragon has appeared. You're asking me to get out? How is that possible? Lend your body to this old man. An old voice came out from the Flood Dragon's body. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were extremely shocked. What was going on? It's fake. You deliberately left clues outside and left this cloud of true dragon blood. It's all fake. The Flood Dragon roared crazily. Ha ha ha, I didn't wait for 800 years in vain. I will finally return to the world. The old voice laughed loudly once again. A layer of blood mist spread out from the Flood Dragon's head, which looked very strange. 7-colored spiritual master. That's the 7-colored spiritual master. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he thought of a possibility. But how was that possible? The 7-colored spiritual master was only in the spirit embryo realm, so how could he have survived until now? And from the looks of it, he was going to take over the Flood Dragon's body. Good move, good move. That 7-colored spiritual master is a 7th level true inscription refiner. He fused his consciousness into the fire of consciousness, and then used the blood of a true dragon to seal the fire of consciousness. That's how he could survive for 800 years. As long as the Flood Dragon swallows the dragon blood, when the dragon blood flows through the Flood Dragon's body, he will be able to destroy the Flood Dragon's soul and take over its body. Dandan's eyes flashed as it spoke. Haha, I didn't expect a little turtle to have some knowledge. The old voice came out. Get out, get out! The Flood Dragon kept shouting. What are you shouting for? It's your honor to have your body used by me. In the future, I will make your name resound in the world. The old voice sneered. Kill me now. As long as you kill me, it's useless for this old man to take over my body. I'd rather die than let my body become a puppet. The Flood Dragon suddenly looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. Juniors, how dare you ruin my plan. I will make sure you die without a burial ground. The 7-colored spiritual master shouted coldly. Hurry up, I can't hold on any longer. If this old man completely takes over my body, he will definitely kill you to silence you. He won't let this secret be known by others. The Flood Dragon roared. His eyes kept flashing and his speech was no longer smooth. He seemed to be unable to hold on any longer. His soul was about to be destroyed. The soul of a demonic beast was originally weaker than that of a human. Lu Ming, let's attack. This Flood Dragon is right. If the 7-colored spiritual master succeeds, he will definitely not let us go. Xian Yinqing said. All right, let's do it. Lu Ming's gaze was resolute. He made up his mind and prepared to attack. Roar. The flood dragon let out a shocking roar. It actually stretched out a sharp claw and clawed at its own chest. What are you doing? The seven-colored spiritual master roared. He seemed to be fighting with the flood dragon for control of his body, causing the claw to weaken. However, the scales on the flood dragon's chest were still scratched off and blood flowed out. Attack here. This is the vital point. Chapter 680. Attack. Lu Ming roared as he stepped forward and stabbed his spear at the flood dragon's vital point. Don't even think about it. Now die. A purple figure appeared on top of the flood dragon's head. This figure was completely condensed from the spiritual fire. The purple spiritual fire represented a level 7 inscription master. It looked like an old man, but his face was extremely gloomy. With a wave of his hand, inscriptions flew out. Buzz. At that instant, lines of inscriptions were emitted from the palace, emitting a brilliant glow. Whoosh. A battle sword flew out and slashed at Lu Ming's spear. Lu Ming's body shook and he quickly retreated. Countless inscriptions shone in the hall, enveloping Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. The seven-colored Taoist had long inscribed an inscription array in the hall. He seemed to have prepared to kill anyone who entered the hall 800 years ago. Die. The seven-colored Taoist shouted coldly. He waved his hands and countless inscriptions flew out. In the hall, the inscriptions shone brighter. Black inscriptions wriggled like small snakes. Sky Demon Force Field. Xian Yinqing used the Sky Demon Force Field to envelop himself and Lu Ming. He used the Sky Demon Force Field to resist the inscription array around them. Sure enough, under the Sky Demon Force Field, the inscriptions slowed down. Let's retreat. Since they couldn't kill him, they could only retreat. You want to leave? I say, no one can leave today. The seven-colored Taoist sneered. He waved his hands and the inscriptions around him became even more terrifying. They formed a battle sword and slashed at Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. These arrays had been around for 800 years, but they were still as powerful as ever. Although the two tried their best to resist, they were still completely suppressed. They were surrounded by danger, and were in extreme danger. Damn it, do you really think I'm a decoration? Watch me. Dandan opened its mouth and spat out 3 jade tokens. It kept one for itself and the other 2 flew toward Xian Yinqing and Lu Ming. What is this? Lu Ming asked. The shadow-shifting talisman can move anywhere. Even in this inscription formation, you can come and go freely. It took me a lot of effort to refine this talisman. Crush it quickly and kill that flood dragon. Dandan shouted. In this situation he could only trust Dandan. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing received the jade talismans and crushed them. Immediately, a curtain of light enveloped Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. Dandan also crushed a piece, and a similar light screen enveloped him. Whoosh! Dandan dashed out like a phantom. The inscriptions had no effect on it. How wonderful! Lu Ming's heart stirred and he dashed out as well. True enough, when his figure passed by, it was like a phantom. Those inscriptions actually passed through his body, and did not have any effect at all. Shadow-shifting talisman. How did you get the shadow-shifting talisman? This ancient talisman has been lost for countless years. How did you get it? The seven-colored Taoist shouted in disbelief. Haha, who am I? During this period, I desperately refined a few pieces. I wanted to save them for some dangerous places, but I didn't expect to use them now. It's your honor to see my shadow-shifting talisman. Dandan laughed proudly. Kill. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense. He stabbed his spear toward the flood dragon. The flood dragon did not resist at all. It faced Lu Ming with its chest and let him kill it. Damn it. The seven-colored Taoist roared again and again, desperately controlling the flood dragon's body to attack. Don't even think about it. The flood dragon was obviously not completely occupied by the seven-colored Taoist, and was desperately trying to control its body. Xian Yinqing walked over, and used the heavenly demon force field to shroud the flood dragon's body, and helped to imprison it. Puchi. Lu Ming's long spear pierced the flood dragon's chest. Here, the scales had already been clawed off by the flood dragon, so its defense was greatly reduced. The incomparably sharp spear light easily pierced through the flood dragon's muscles and into its heart. No. The seven-colored Taoist roared. Ha ha ha, old monster, you want to take my body? Dream on. The flood dragon laughed crazily. Boom. Lu Ming's long spear shook and a burst of true essence surged into it, smashing the flood dragon's heart into pieces. Whoosh. Whoosh. At the same time, more than a dozen battle swords formed by the inscription array slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming pulled out his long spear and retreated quickly. With a bang, the flood dragon's body fell heavily to the ground. Haha, old monster, you've been plotting for 800 years and you've failed in the end. The flood dragon laughed heartily. Slowly, its voice lowered and its life force dissipated. Damn it, you're all going to die today. The seven-colored Taoist roared crazily. Before he died, he had set up a trap with a ball of true dragon blood, and left clues outside in order to attract a flood dragon, and then occupy its body. With the true dragon blood as a medium, he was confident that he could succeed. The lifespan of monsters was much longer than that of humans, especially for creatures like the flood dragon. With a long lifespan, the seven-colored Taoist could explore a higher realm. Unfortunately, the flood dragon was dead and it was useless for him to occupy it. Refine. Hoo-hoo, a layer of purple flames suddenly appeared on the flood dragon's body. The purple flames wrapped around the flood dragon and burned it crazily. As it burned, the flood dragon's body shriveled, and the purple flames became stronger and stronger. In the end, the purple flames gathered in the air and formed a human figure. It was the seven-colored Taoist. Retreat. For some unknown reason, Lu Ming suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. He pulled Xian Yanqing and retreated hurriedly. Very soon they left the main hall. You want to leave? Without the flood dragon, kid, your body is not bad. Let me use it. The seven-colored Taoist smiled sinisterly. The purple flames turned into a stream of light and flew towards Lu Ming. Fast, too fast. It crossed the hall in an instant. It was several times faster than Lu Ming and the others. It was really like a stream of light. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had just retreated to the entrance of the hall when the purple flames caught up with them. They shot directly towards Lu Ming's forehead and disappeared into Lu Ming's forehead. Not good. He wants to seize Lu Ming's body and destroy Lu Ming's soul. Xian Yanqing's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with worry. It's over. Little beauty, Lu Ming is finished. Your little lover is finished. Dandan shouted. What should we do? Is there any way to save him? Dandan. Aren't you an expert? Quickly think of a way. Xian Yanqing was extremely anxious. He was like an ant on a hot pan. His eyes were misty and he almost shed tears. At this moment, Lu Ming's forehead was covered with a layer of purple light. He sat cross-legged and seemed to be resisting with all his strength. There is a way, but I don't know if you're willing. Dandan touched its chin with one of its front paws. What way? Tell me, I'm definitely willing. Xian Yanqing said anxiously. Is that so? Alright, I know a way. I want you and Lu Ming to practice the dual cultivation technique. This way, your soul can be transferred to Lu Ming's side and help him fight against the seven-colored Taoist. This way, your chances of winning will be much higher. Chapter 681. What? Dual cultivation? Xian Yanqing was stunned, and then his face turned red. What? You don't want to? Then forget it. Let's run away quickly. Lu Ming's body will definitely be taken by that old man. Sigh. Lu Ming sighed. Xian Yanqing bit his lips and his face turned red. In the end he gritted his teeth and said, Okay, I agree. You can leave. I leave. No need. You guys start. I'll watch here and help you guard. Dandan said, his eyes rolling. What about the cultivation method? Xian Yanqing said. Cultivation method? What cultivation method? Dandan answered subconsciously. That dual cultivation method. After saying that, Xian Yanqing's eyes flashed. He couldn't help but take a closer look at Dandan. He saw that Dandan's eyes were rolling and his mouth was grinning. He looked like he wanted to laugh but was holding back. Dandan, are you lying to me? You're lying to me, right? Xian Yinqing stared. Ha ha ha, little beauty, you saw through me. Haha, I just wanted to see if you care about Lu Ming. I didn't expect that I would see through you. Dandan finally couldn't hold back and laughed. You cheap turtle, I'm going to eat you. Xian Yinqing's face was red. He bared his teeth and rushed over to grab Dandan. He wanted to bite him. Then he looked at Lu Ming with some worry and said, Is Lu Ming really okay? Don't worry. That old man actually dared to have designs on Lu Ming. He's simply courting death. Moreover, Lu Ming kid can obtain a great fortune. This kid is so lucky that even I am a little envious. Dandan said with a relaxed face. Are you really okay? Xian Yinqing asked. Of course it's fine, it's definitely fine. Dandan said confidently. Then it saw Xian Yinqing gritting his teeth and glaring at it fiercely. Did he just get tricked by Dandan? Xian Yinqing's heartbeat quickened and her face flushed red. She wished she could find a hole to crawl into when she thought about how she had almost dual cultivated with Lu Ming. I wonder if that guy heard it? I don't think he heard it. At the thought that Lu Ming might have heard it, Xian Yinqing wished he could roast Dandan. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you looking at me like that? I'm doing this for your own good, you know? You'll have to do it sooner or later anyway, so why don't you do it early? Young people like to drag things out. I'm getting anxious. Dandan shouted. Who's going to do that kind of thing with that guy? A ball of flame appeared in Xian Yinqing's hand and enveloped Dandan. Nest, it's killing someone. No, it's killing a turtle. Help. Dandan shouted and retracted its head into the turtle shell. The turtle shell glowed and blocked the flames. At this moment, a great battle was going on in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. How is this possible? Geocentric flowing flame. Your spiritual fire is ignited by the geocentric flowing flame. The seven-colored Taoist screamed in horror. At this moment, the seven-colored Taoist spiritual fire was wrapped in a ball of yellow flames. Just now, when the seven-colored Taoist came in, he wanted to extinguish Lu Ming's spiritual fire and replace it. But he had never dreamed that the essence of Lu Ming's spiritual fire was the geocentric flowing flame. The geocentric flowing flame was an extremely powerful flame. It was one of the top flames in the world. Not only did the seven-colored Taoist fail to extinguish Lu Ming's spiritual fire, but he was also surrounded by Lu Ming's spiritual fire. Damn it, damn it! The seven-colored Taoist shouted, and his purple spiritual fire turned into a human form. He waved his hands, and a purple battle sword appeared, trying to break through the encirclement of Lu Ming's spiritual fire. Lu Ming's spiritual fire suddenly changed, and turned into a huge nether god. It held a long spear and stabbed at the seven-colored Taoist. This was the nether god transformed by the nether god visualization. Lu Ming was using the nether god visualization at this moment. Bang! The seven-colored Taoist battle sword was defeated, but the long spear didn't stop and stabbed at the seven-colored Taoist's body. The seven-colored Taoist screamed, and his body scattered, turning into a purple flame that floated back and then reformed. Spiritual fire cultivation technique. You actually mastered the spiritual fire cultivation technique. The seven-colored Taoist screamed hysterically, and his voice was filled with endless fear. It seemed that he was even more terrified than when he learned about the geocentric flowing flame. Die. The nether god gave off a terrifying aura as he stepped forward and stabbed with his spear. Run, run. The seven-colored Taoist turned into a streak of light and ran. Where do you think you're going in my spiritual sea? The next moment, the nether god appeared in front of the seven-colored Taoist and stabbed with his spear. With a poof, the seven-colored Taoist was scattered again, and turned into a ball of flame. In Lu Ming's sea of consciousness, he was the master of this place and had complete control over it. How could the seven-colored sage escape? This time, the seven-colored Taoist took a long time to reform the scattered flames. Spare me, young hero, spare me. The seven-colored Taoist started to beg for mercy. You wanted to kill me, and now you want me to spare you? Do you think that's possible? Lu Ming sneered. Young hero, as long as you spare me, I can teach you how to refine pills and inscribe arrays. I can teach you all my experience. The seven-colored Taoist yelled. Hee hee, I don't feel at ease facing an old monster like you. I'm more at ease facing a dead person. Lu Ming wasn't moved at all and stabbed with his spear. Pung. The flames were scattered again. Then, Lu Ming turned into a ball of flame again and surrounded the 7-colored Taoist's purple flames. The 7-colored Taoist screamed. His soul and consciousness were being burned by the geocentric flowing flame and slowly dissipated. No matter how he begged or cursed, Lu Ming wasn't moved. A moment later, the 7-colored Taoist's voice completely disappeared. His consciousness had been completely refined by Lu Ming, and only a ball of pure spiritual fire was left. At this moment, the 7-colored Taoist's spiritual fire was being refined, and wisps of it floated towards Lu Ming's spiritual lamp. Lu Ming originally only lit 8 yellow spiritual lamps, but now, the first 8 continued to burn, and the 9th lamp suddenly emitted a wisp of flame. Although it was only a wisp of flame, it meant that Lu Ming had lit the 9th lamp. A level 3 inscription master had 9 lamps. He was only 1 lamp away from perfection. Moreover, as the geocentric flowing flame continued to refine the 7-colored Taoist spiritual fire, the flame of the 9th spiritual lamp began to grow brighter and brighter. It was 108,000 times faster than when he was cultivating. Lu Ming was overjoyed and excited. He could actually refine the 7-colored Taoist spiritual fire for his own use and improve his spiritual fire. Chapter 682. Moreover, as the 7-colored Taoist spiritual fire was refined and fused into his own spiritual fire, it brought along some scattered fragments. Those were fragments of the 7-colored Taoist's experience regarding inscription, alchemy, and inscription arrays. This was the 7-colored Taoist's lifetime experience of cultivating the Tao of inscription. It was slowly fused into Lu Ming's spiritual fire and was grasped by Lu Ming. Lu Ming simply wanted to look up to the sky and laugh. This was an opportunity, a supreme opportunity. After all, Lu Ming had only been cultivating the path of inscription for a short period of time. Although his mental fire was perfect at every level, he was still inexperienced. Although he had mastered millions of level 1, level 2, and level 3 inscriptions that Dandan had given him, he didn't know how to combine them and how to use them. This was something that had to be slowly explored. This was experience. But now, he had refined the 7-colored Taoist spiritual fire and fused with his experience. Although these experiences were still scattered, as long as Lu Ming refined more of the 7-colored Taoist spiritual fire, he would definitely gain more and more experience. His knowledge of the Tao of inscription would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Although the true dragon's blood had been burned and dried up by the 7-colored Taoist, it was enough to obtain such an opportunity. To Lu Ming, it was even more precious than a ball of true dragon's blood. At this moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes. In the sea of consciousness, refining the mental fire was not something that could be done in a short period of time. It was constantly being refined. Lu Ming's mental fire was constantly improving. Haha kid, you've struck it big this time, right? Seeing Lu Ming open his eyes, Dandan laughed. Yes, I've indeed struck it big. Lu Ming smiled slightly. Xian Yinqing's face was still a little red. She blinked her big eyes and looked at Lu Ming, then looked in other directions as if she didn't dare to look at Lu Ming. Hey little Qing, we seem to have other things to do just now. Why don't we continue now? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yinqing with a smile and said. Xian Yinqing's face suddenly turned red. She knew that Lu Ming must have heard everything that had happened before. Continue my ass. A big pervert with a perverted tortoise. You're really jackals of the same tribe. Xian Yinqing gritted her teeth and blushed. She turned her head and didn't look at Lu Ming. Kid, I've been generous this time, right? Quickly give me some spiritual herbs as a reward. Dandan shouted. Dandan Lin said. Dandan Taoist. Dandan was overjoyed and swallowed them all. Dandan was Dawn. At the sight of this, Xian Yinqing gritted her silver teeth and her eyes widened to the size of copper bells. There was a raging fire in her eyes as she pounced on Lu Ming with bared fangs and brandished claws. Let's see if there are any other treasures in the main hall. Lu Ming quickly changed the topic and dashed into the main hall in a flash. After walking around the hall, he found that there was nothing there. It was completely empty. Where were the treasures left behind by the seven-colored Taoist? Where was the storage ring? Why was there nothing? Lu Ming was a little depressed. If he had known, he would have interrogated the seven-colored Taoist and made him tell him where the treasures were hidden before killing him. He walked around and returned to the side of the flood dragon's body. It was a pity that the blood and essence of the flood dragon's body had been burned by the seven-colored Taoist. Otherwise, the flood dragon's blood essence would be a great supplement. He could even refine the blood of a true dragon. This flood dragon's body is full of treasures. Keep it. Lu Ming waved his hand and put the flood dragon's body into a storage ring. Xian Yanqing angrily followed beside Lu Ming. Little Qing, let's go out, Lu Ming said with a smile. Humph. Xian Yanqing snorted coldly. He ignored Lu Ming and walked out. Lu Ming smiled and followed her out. When they arrived at the edge of the square, they found that the two were still trapped there. Little bastard, stop right there. Where's the flood dragon? What's wrong? What treasures did you get? Hand them over. The moment he saw Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, the Frostblade spirit shouted. Idiot, you're really an idiot. I think you've lived for so long in vain. In this situation, instead of kneeling and begging me, you're actually threatening me. Lu Ming shook his head and said contemptuously. Little bastard, what did you say? The Frostblade spirit shouted angrily. Lu Ming shook his head. He could not be bothered to talk nonsense. He exchanged thousands of spirit crystals around the array to increase the power of the array. You two enjoy yourselves here. Lu Ming waved his hand and swaggered away with Xian Yanqing. Behind them, only the roars of the Frostblade spirit and old monster Hongqi could be heard. Dandan, that form-shifting talisman of yours is quite useful. Make a few more when you're free. On the way, Lu Ming looked at Dandan expectantly. Okay, give me the materials. Form-connecting jade. Dandan stretched out a claw. Form-connecting jade? What form-connecting jade? Lu Ming was stunned. Nonsense, of course it's the materials. Without form-connecting jade, how can I make a talisman? I don't think you have it either. I found the previous few when I saw you cleaning other people's storage rings. That's why I made a few form-shifting talismans. Dandan curled its lips. Lu Ming remembered that Dandan had indeed coaxed and pestered him once and took away a piece of jade from him. Initially, he had thought that it was an ordinary jade. He did not expect it to be a form-forming jade. Lu Ming, let me tell you, form-connecting jade is very rare. With my current strength, it can only be used in a 6th-level inscription array. The array set by the 7-colored spiritual master is only as powerful as a 6th-level inscription array after so many years. That's why it can be used. So, don't think you can use form-shifting talismans to walk in various arrays. It's unrealistic. Dandan said mercilessly. Lu Ming was depressed. He did have the idea to let Dandan make a pile of form-shifting talismans. Then he wouldn't be afraid of any arrays in the future. It seemed that there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. The two of them and the tortoise followed the original path and got out of the area that was full of inscription formations without any danger. Let's go to other places to search for spiritual herbs, Lu Ming said. Next, they chose another direction and went to look for spiritual herbs. Although the Rainbow Island was big, it was still limited. This place had already been searched. In the next 3 days, although the two of them had some gains, they didn't gain much. However, Lu Ming's spiritual fire had undergone earth-shattering changes. His spirit fire was increasing at a crazy rate with every passing moment. In just 3 days, not only did he ignite 10 spiritual lamps at the 3rd level, but he also stepped into the range of a 4th-level inscriptionist. Now he had already ignited 8 green spiritual lamps. A 4th-level inscriptionist and 8 green spiritual lamps. In just 3 days, Lu Ming's spiritual fire had increased by a whole realm. Chapter 683. The 7-colored spiritual master was a level 7 true inscription master. At every level, he would ignite at least 6 spirit lamps. How large was his spirit fire? Although Lu Ming ignited 10 spirit lamps at every level, he was only a level 3 inscription master before. The difference between him and a level 7 inscription master was too great. In comparison, the difference between a martial grandmaster realm practitioner and a spirit embryo realm practitioner was like heaven and earth. It was unknown how far they were apart. Therefore, the seven-colored spiritual master's spirit fire was still rapidly increasing Lu Ming's spirit fire. Moreover, it contained fragments of the seven-colored spiritual master's experience. Lu Ming's experience in alchemy and inscription formations was becoming more and more abundant. Hey, look, there's another palace ahead. Xian Yinqing suddenly pointed ahead and said in surprise. Lu Ming looked over. Indeed, there was a mountain range ahead. On one of the mountain peaks, there was another palace. Could it be that the seven-colored spiritual master cultivated in more than one palace? Could it be that all his treasures are hidden in the palace ahead? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Obviously, Xian Yinqing also had the same guess. Kill, kill. Kill and take all the treasures. Dandan shouted. Shua, shua. Lu Ming turned into two streaks of light and flew over. But not long after they stopped. In front, there were two streaks of light, one in front and one behind, rushing over. In front was a golden sword light. In the sword light was a young man in his 20s. He was extremely handsome and emitted a powerful aura. Obviously, this young man was being chased by a streak of light from behind. The streak of light behind him was an old man. Frostblade spirit practitioner. Seeing the old man behind him, Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were shocked. The person chasing after them was actually a Frostblade spirit cultivator. But wasn't he trapped in the great formation of the plaza from before? He had actually escaped and appeared here. However, judging from his aura, he should have been severely injured and was far from his peak. He was at most at the second level of the spiritual sea realm. Kid, hand over the treasures and I'll spare your life. Frostblade roared. However, the young man didn't seem to have any intention of paying attention to him. He flew past Lu Ming and the others at an extremely fast speed. The Han Dao spirit warrior chased after them relentlessly. He glanced at Lu Ming and was stunned for a moment. Then he roared, "Little bastards, it's you. You deserve to die." With a furious roar, Frostblade spiritual practitioner actually stopped chasing after the young man. Instead, he pounced on Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing with a venomous look in his eyes. From this, it could be seen how much he hated Lu Ming, directly abandoning that young man. Lu Ming's expression turned solemn as the infinite dragon spear appeared in his hand. Sky Demon Force Field. Xian Yinqing stretched out his hand and pressed down. An enormous heavenly demon force field enveloped Frostblade Spirit Master. However, the Frostblade Spirit Master was truly powerful. Although he was injured, his true yuan was still incomparably powerful. His true yuan burst forth, breaking through the heavenly demon force field, and charging towards Lu Ming. Destruction cut. Xian Yinqing roared again. The heavenly demon force field burst forth with the power of destruction cut. Streaks of terrifying cutting power seemed to be able to cut through space. Frostblade Spirit Master roared angrily. His entire body was covered in white ice like a suit of ice armor. His figure continued to charge forward. Kill. Lu Ming rushed into the heavenly demon force field with the infinite dragon spear in hand. The spear light pierced towards Frostblade Spirit Master's throat. Lu Ming was not affected in the slightest by the heavenly demon force field. It was as if he was outside. The heavenly demon force field was completely under Xian Yinqing's control. Clang. Frostblade Spirit Master slashed out, blocking Lu Ming's spear. Lu Ming's body trembled as he retreated. Frostblade Spirit Master's realm was too high. Even if he was injured, his battle strength was still terrifying. Little bastards, die. Today you will die. Frostblade Spirit Master's eyes were filled with murderous intent. 3 days ago, he and old monster Hongqi were trapped in that big formation. They were trapped for half a day and almost died in there. Fortunately, there were other people who had also reached there. With the help of others, they were able to get out of danger. Although they escaped, they were severely injured. Even now they were still far from recovering. His hatred for Lu Ming and old monster Hongqi was unimaginable. Boom. Boom. The 9 Dragons bloodline and the second bloodline erupted at the same time. Lu Ming's battle strength increased greatly. 9th grade king class. Both bloodlines are 9th grade king class. Frostblade Spirit Master cried out in disbelief. He was almost scared to death. When activating one's bloodline, it was inevitable that the rank of one's bloodline would be exposed. It was simply unbelievable that both bloodlines were 9th grade king class. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. After activating his bloodline, his battle strength increased. He charged towards Frostblade Spirit Master again. Frostblade Spirit Master wanted to kill him. How could he not want to kill Frostblade Spirit Master? Otherwise, it would be terrible to be targeted by such a despicable old monster. Who knew if the old monster would do something behind his back? Die. This kid is too terrifying. He must die. Frostblade Spirit Master was even more determined to kill Lu Ming. His blade light flashed as he battled with Lu Ming. However, he was greatly affected by the heavenly demon power field. For a moment, it would not be easy to defeat Lu Ming. I'll smash! Dandan shrank back into its shell, and suddenly smashed towards Frostblade Spirit Master's face. However, Sea of Soul Realm martial artists who had comprehended level 2 intent could already control the heaven and earth elements to form battle armor to cover their whole body. Dandan rushed over, but it only smashed into the ice armor covering Frostblade Spirit Master's face. Nest, I haven't recovered enough. Otherwise, I would have smashed through that old man's ice layer. Dandan flew back to Lu Ming's shoulder and muttered, looking for a chance to sneak attack. Xiao. Right at this moment, a golden sword light flew over. It was the golden-robed youth from before. He had actually returned. Before he arrived, a golden sword chi with incomparable sharpness cut through the void and slashed towards Frostblade Spirit Master. Kid, come and die with me. Frostblade Spirit Master roared and waved his blade to block the sword chi. Shwa. The golden-robed youth appeared in the air and glanced around. Finally, his gaze landed on Lu Ming and he said, Shura? Hell King? Lu Ming said. He could tell from the aura that this person was Hell King. And Hell King obviously recognized him as well. How about working together? Let's kill this old man. Hell King said. That's exactly what I want. A smile emerged on Lu Ming's face. Hell King's battle strength was terrifying. With him they could fight the injured Frostblade Spirit Master. Golden Radiance Radiant Sword. Hell King was very straightforward and directly attacked. The dazzling golden sword chi emitted an incomparable sharpness that seemed to be able to cut through everything. Hell King had comprehended the metal intent, and had already reached level 2. The metal intent was known for its sharpness and sharpness. Xian Yanqing's Sky Demon Force Field naturally didn't hinder Hell King at all. At the same time, Lu Ming also appeared. He stabbed out with his long spear and a tricolor dragon flew out, pouncing towards Frostblade Spirit Master. Facing the attacks of the three people, Frostblade Spirit Warrior slashed out saber lights one after another. Chapter 684. Then the spear light, sword light, and saber light clashed again. Whoosh! Whoosh! Sword chi and saber chi shot out in all directions. One could see with the naked eye that there were cracks in the space nearby. Frostblade Spirit was injured and suppressed by the Sky Demon Force Field, while Lu Ming and Hades were able to fight to their heart's content. The battle between the four was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. Rumble. At this moment, the world suddenly shook. The four of them could feel the Rainbow Island shaking violently in the air. The shaking was getting more and more intense. Oh no, the Rainbow Island is going to return to the void. Let's go. A martial artist shouted in the distance. How do we leave? Fly to the sky. The Rainbow Island is covered by the inscription formation. As long as we fly to the sky and break through the inscription formation, we can leave. Hurry. Whoosh. Whoosh. Streaks of rainbow light could be seen emerging from the mountain ranges, flying into the sky at an extremely fast speed. Lu Ming and the others' expressions changed. However, they were all anxious. No one stopped. If any of them stopped, the other party would take advantage of the situation and attack fiercely. They would definitely be at a disadvantage. However, the four of them also flew to the sky consciously. They fought as they flew. When they were tens of thousands of meters in the sky, they could see that there was indeed a light screen above their heads that covered the Rainbow Island. In the distance, beams of rainbow light bombarded the light screen and pierced through it. The figures disappeared. Boom. The four of them fought. When the battle reached the edge of the light screen was naturally pierced through. The four of them rushed out. Lu Ming appeared outside and found himself floating in the air. Not far away, a part of the Rainbow Island had already returned to the void. The remaining part was also returning to the void and would disappear soon. Around the Rainbow Island, figures flashed and appeared. They were the people who came out of the Rainbow Island. Clang! Not far away, a dazzling golden light flashed. The Frostblade Spirit Practitioner was closer to Yama King, so he made the first move. He wanted to kill one of them first before dealing with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. How could Lu Ming let him have his way? With the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomp, he turned into a stream of light and appeared behind the Ice Saber Spirit Practitioner in an instant. He aimed his long spear directly at the Ice Saber Spirit Practitioner. Damn it! Yama had long since been on guard against him. His sudden attack hadn't been able to injure Yama. Furthermore, Lu Ming's speed and reaction speed were also terrifying. He had arrived almost immediately, ruining Yama's plan to injure Yama. Boom. In the next moment, a huge pressure pressed down on the Frostblade Spirit Master. Xian Yanqing followed closely behind. This made the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Among the three of them, Xian Yanqing was the most troublesome to deal with. The Heavenly Demon Power Field Suppression and Destruction Cut Sneak Attack made it impossible for him to unleash his full power. As for Lu Ming and Yama King, they were in charge of ferocious attacks. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner was confident that he could easily crush and kill any one of the three of them. However, the three of them working together was too difficult to deal with. This area was boiling as the battle was incomparably intense. The people nearby were all alarmed. That's the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. Who are those three? They can actually fight with the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner? Such powerful battle strength. The three of them are all Peak Kings. Unbelievable. Peak Kings can actually fight with the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner? Azura, Yama, and Wuxia. That's right, it's the three of them. Their moves are exactly the same. The three of them are actually fighting the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner together. What's going on? Heavens, it should be the three of them. I think there's some conflict on the 7-colored island. Most of the people in the surroundings were Peak Kings. There were also a few Sea of Soul Realm experts. They were all shocked at this scene. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner was a powerful existence at the peak of the 3rd level of Sea of Soul Realm. They could see that his aura was weak and should be injured. However, this was still shocking enough. Many people stood in the air, watching from afar. Rumble. The 7-colored island kept sinking into the void and was about to disappear. The commotion on the 7-colored island shook the entire Golden Sand Island. Countless figures flew over and looked at the 7-colored island that was about to disappear in shock. At the same time, they were shocked by the scene of Lu Ming and the others fighting with the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. Feng Chuan, come and help me kill these 3 little bastards. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner called out. He called out to a 1st-level Sea of Soul Realm expert who was watching nearby. This Feng Chuan was an old acquaintance of the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner, but they weren't very close. At this moment, Feng Chuan's expression changed. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Yama were too powerful. Even if he attacked, he might not be able to kill them in one strike. If he was counterattacked, he might die here. Moreover, they were still so young. Their potential was too shocking. If he didn't kill them all, when they broke through to the Sea of Soul Realm, he wouldn't dare to appear. Therefore, he hesitated and couldn't make up his mind. Feng Chuan, you're still not attacking? Do you want to die? The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner threatened. Feng Chuan's expression turned ugly again. Kill! Xian Yanqing shouted. Her arm pressed down again, and a beautiful arm formed. The arm was huge, and the palm alone was 10 meters wide. It pressed down on the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. This was Xian Yanqing's bloodline martial technique. Extreme Path Strike. Golden Light Tear. Lu Ming and the King of Hell also unleashed their strongest attacks. They wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. The longer the battle dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner knew many people, but they were outsiders. The three of them all used their strongest attacks. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner's expression changed drastically, and he exploded with all his power to defend. Bang! The power of the three fell on the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner's saber light was shattered, and the ice armor covering his body was also shattered. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner screamed, and his body flew far away, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. Kill! Lu Ming and the other two madly pounced on the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. Frost Saber Storm. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner's face flashed with an abnormal color. In an instant, he slashed out hundreds of times towards Lu Ming and the other two. Break! The three of them worked together to break the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner's Frost Saber Storm, and charged towards the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner's face turned pale. He was actually at a disadvantage. If this continued, he would be in danger. At this moment, a scarlet sword chi crossed the void and slashed towards Lu Ming and the other two. Their expressions changed, and they blocked the sword chi, but their bodies couldn't help but stop. Whoosh! A red-robed old man appeared in front of the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. It was Old Monster Hongqi. Haha, Old Monster Hongqi, you're here. Good, let's kill these three little bastards together. Seeing Old Monster Hongqi, the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner was ecstatic. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Yama's expressions became serious. The three of them stood side by side, staring at the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner and Old Monster Hongqi. Chapter 685. Old Freak Hongqi was the same as the Cold Blade Spirit Warrior. He was also injured in the formation, but no one knew how serious his injuries were. If he retained the same fighting strength as the Cold Blade Spirit Warrior, or even stronger than the latter, they would be in trouble. Today it was impossible for them to kill Frost Blade Spirit Master. Frost Blade Spirit Master and Old Freak Hongqi charged toward Lu Ming and the other two. Around them, everyone was watching attentively. They were extremely curious in their hearts. Would the three rising geniuses die in the hands of the two old monsters? Buzz! Just then, a golden pagoda appeared on Hell King's body. The golden pagoda emitted a dazzling golden light that was even more dazzling than the sun. Those rays of golden light were like rays of incomparably sharp sword chi. Golden Light Sword Pagoda! Frostblade Spirit Master and Old Freak Hongqi exclaimed when they saw the golden pagoda. It's the Golden Light Sword Pagoda! The others around them also exclaimed in shock. Are you from the Golden Sword Sect? Old Freak Hongqi asked with a grave expression. In the west of the chaotic astral ocean, there was a large region near the exposed star sea called the Golden Light region. The Golden Light region was very famous in the eastern wilderness. It was not a small region, but a large one with terrifying strength. The top sect in the Golden Light region was the Golden Sword Sect. Although the Golden Light region was under the control of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, and the Golden Sword Sect was also a subordinate force of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, the Golden Sword Sect had a lot of say in the Golden Light region. It was almost as powerful as the branch of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace in the Golden Light region. The Golden Light Sword Pagoda could only be owned by the true geniuses of the Golden Sword Sect. It was very famous and close to the exposed star sea. I'm Qinfei Ryu. King of Hell slowly announced his name. What? You're Qinfei Ryu, the top genius of the Golden Sword Sect. Qinfei Ryu, ranked 788th on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. Hearing Hell King's words, Old Freak Hongqi and Frostblade Spirit Master's expressions changed drastically. Cries of surprise could be heard from all around. The King of Hell was Qinfei Ryu, ranked 788th on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's eyes also flickered. They had naturally heard of Qinfei Ryu. His name was recorded on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. Ranked 788, he was indeed much stronger than Li Xiaoyan. Old Ghost Han Dao, let's just forget about what happened today. Old Man Hongqi's expression changed as he said to Ice Saber Spirit Master. He wasn't afraid of Qinfei Ryu, but of the Golden Sword sect behind Qinfei Ryu. What are you afraid of? Let's kill them today and find a small island to hide on. Do you think the Golden Sword sect will be able to find us? Han Dao's eyes were filled with viciousness as he said, moreover, these brats all have valuable treasures on them. If we get them, we'll split them equally. Old Red, don't be such a coward. Ice Saber Spirit Master's eyes were cold. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had entered the hall. They had gone in to check, but it was empty. Even the Flood Dragon was gone. He guessed that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing must have gotten the treasures inside. Moreover, his hatred for Lu Ming was too strong. He wouldn't be satisfied if he didn't kill Lu Ming. Qinfei Ryu, on the other hand, had gotten the treasures in the other hall. Therefore, he didn't want to let the three of them go so easily. Old Man Hongqi's expression also changed. He was also tempted by the treasure that Ice Saber Spirit Master valued. Old Ice Saber, let's see if you can kill us. Do you think I don't have any life-saving treasures on me? Let's put it another way. If I control the Golden Sword Pagoda with all my might, do you think you can stop it? I'm confident that I can kill one of you. Which one of you wants to die? Qinfei Ryu sneered, looking at Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi. Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi's expression turned ugly. They knew that Qinfei Ryu was right. How could a genius like Qinfei Ryu not have any life-saving treasures on him? Moreover, the Golden Sword Pagoda was a famous treasure. With Qinfei Ryu's cultivation, it would be difficult for him to control it. However, if he was forced to use it, one of them might be killed. Brother Jian, why bother talking nonsense with them? I also have something on me. If I use it, I can kill one of them. Lu Ming said coldly. Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi's expression changed again. They couldn't help but step back. They had no choice but to believe that Lu Ming was telling the truth. Lu Ming was so young, but his combat ability was strong. He was not inferior to Jian Filiu at all. He was definitely born in a powerful force. It was highly possible that he had a treasure with him to protect himself. Moreover, there was also Xian Yanqing. They began to hesitate. This was the advantage of being a big force. It was not something that independent cultivators like them could compare with. Lu Ming looked coldly at Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi. What he said just now was half true and half false. He did have a killing move, which was the Thunder Cauldron. However, if he used it, he would be at the mercy of others. Under such circumstances, Lu Ming did not plan to use the Thunder Cauldron. He said it just to scare Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi. In my opinion, let's forget about today's matter. After pondering for a while, Old Man Hongqi spoke. Obviously, he did not dare to gamble with his life. Ice Saber Spirit Master's face turned ugly. He was very unwilling. However, if Old Man Hongqi withdrew, he could not do anything to Lu Ming and the others. He might even be killed by them. Little bastards. Wait until I recover from my injuries. See how I kill you. Ice Saber Spirit Master roared in his heart. If he was in his prime, he was absolutely confident that he could kill Lu Ming and Qinfei Ryu before they used their secret treasures. Let's go. Ice Saber Spirit Master glanced at Lu Ming and the others. Then he and Old Man Hongqi turned into two streaks of light and flew into the distance. Rumble. At this time, the Rainbow Island had completely disappeared in the void. The void returned to its calm state. I still don't know how to address the two of you. I really admire your cultivation and combat strength. Qinfei Ryu put away the Golden Sword Pagoda and cupped his fists to Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. I'm Lu Ming. Lu Ming cupped his fists and smiled. Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing said coldly. Lu Ming? Xian Yanqing? Qinfei Ryu pondered for a while. Obviously, he had not heard of these two names. Then he smiled bitterly and said, I've long heard that this generation is in the golden age. There are many geniuses and talents rising. It seems that it's true. Along the way, I've met no less than 5 geniuses who are not inferior to the list of top 1,000 talents. No wonder Tianji Chamber of Commerce hasn't released a new list when it's time to update the list of top 1,000 talents. Perhaps there are too many rising geniuses for Tianji Chamber of Commerce to control them all. Lu Ming nodded. He was also curious. The list of top 1,000 talents would be updated every 2 years. According to the time, 2 years should have passed, but the new list of top 1,000 talents had not been updated. Obviously, it had something to do with the current era. With the arrival of the new era, talents would rise. Although Tianji Chamber of Commerce was powerful, it was difficult to control them all. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.